This Mustang Mach-E is officially fully charged. We've got 248 miles in it. Challenge today, see how quickly we can drain the battery. Come with me. Okay, so the plan today is to see what is the absolute least you can get out of an electric car if you use all of the things that would normally drain a battery. So let's turn the engine battery on. Then we're going to go phone charging. Lovely. Let's turn on the heated seats all the way up. That's going to make me hot, so we probably better turn on the aircon all the way up. The temperature all the way down. That's going to make me cold, so we'll turn on the heated steering. Lovely. Let's heat up the windscreens as well, eh? Why not? Why not? Heated seats on this side. Lovely. All the way up. Okay. Oh, driving mode. Let's go on to Untamed. Okay. Let's do it. So we've all heard about how to get the best range possible from your electric car. You precondition the battery before your trip, you turn off the heater, you close all the windows, you drive very gently, and then you die of boredom or hypothermia. That's all very well, but we wanted to do things wrong. If you were totally careless and did everything you were not supposed to do, how fast can we run out of juice? What's the least number of miles we can achieve from a single charge? It's an interesting one. And our chariot of choice is this, the Mustang Mach-E. So here's the thing, right? I want to get to know the Mach-E just a little bit better because it's supposed to be a practical family electric SUV with a little bit of added extra spice. No lemon and herb, a bit of spice, if you will. So this is the standard all-wheel drive version. It's the least efficient, so it has the least amount of mileage of all the Mach-Es that you can get. But you can get 248 miles on it, which we did start with, and already I'm down to 238. Wow. I'm not normally the sort of person that gets range anxiety, but today might be that day. I think I'm kind of getting used to the fake V8 noise. Although I still don't know if I like it, but I am getting used to it. When you drive it in whisper mode, it is just completely silent. Now whisper mode is like eco mode, if you will, on other cars, but it's known as whisper on here. So it just makes everything super sleek, super quiet. As you pull away, it's done slightly gentler than it would be while it's in untamed mode, like what it is now. While it's in untamed mode, I mean, you're basically going to win at all the traffic lights is what's going to happen. Okay, the range is dropping fairly quickly on the motorway, which is great news for us, but we want to test the Mach-E on a variety of roads, so it's time to turn off and head into town. I'm now in town, so I'm currently going 29 miles an hour. Sticking within the speed limit. Well done, Nicola. No more speed awareness courses for me, thank you very much. But look, this car in town is where it's going to be its most efficient. So if you want to buy one of these and be super efficient and get lots of range, in-town driving is where it's going to be at its best. And it's super duper quiet as well. What I like about this is how easy this car is to drive. You get in and you go. I mean, the size of this car as well, you would expect it to be a bit more fiddly in and around town, but it's not. It's quite lovely. Right then, how are we looking for range? Well, we've driven 14 miles since we charged up, but we've taken 26 miles off the total range. That's not too shabby. We will be giving the Mach-E a fair test later on to find out how far it can go in normal conditions. But in the meantime, I'm going to head over to some nice country roads where I can really grab the Mach-E by the horns. That should really do some damage to our predicted range. So while we're getting there, I'm going to tell you some fun little nuggets of information about this car. So this is the dual motor version that we've got here, and it has 266 brake horsepower, 580 Newton meters of torque, which let me just tell you now, is gosh blimey plenty. I mean, when you put your foot down, 0 to 62 is in the lower part of 6 seconds. It's not bad, is it? It's not bad at all. What I quite like is when you've got it in the Untamed mode and you put your foot down, you feel like it might end up giving you whiplash, which is fun. I think it makes me like I feel like my face goes. This is where it's fun, you see. This is where the car shines. I mean, I know it is an SUV and there's not a lot of body roll, to be fair, in corners. Okay, steering could be a little bit more accurate, but this is where it's at its best, when you're on a twisty, turny country road and you can have a good bit of fun with it. Although, this is where we're going to mostly drain the battery, I'm not going to lie. Which I suppose when it comes to a challenge like today is a good thing. It is quite firm. It doesn't make it uncomfortable, but I suppose it has to be for an SUV then, doesn't it? So it stops the body roll just that little bit more. Whew, after giving it some beans, the car is showing 106 miles of range after 76 miles of driving. So technically, the car thinks we've driven 142 miles. Good job, Nicola. But before we get onto the motorway and completely kill the battery, let's talk about the interior, because there's no getting around it. That giant screen dominates everything. Now, as standard, I mean, you've got the heated seats, heated steering, which obviously we're keeping on so we can attempt to drain the battery a little bit faster to see what's the minimum that we can get. You've got this 15.5-inch massive screen here, which I've taken a liking to. I didn't like it when I first looked at it, but there's a charm to it, although it is a little bit on the laggy side. So when you kind of play around with it, it just takes sort of a second or two to realise what you're trying to do. But it has got wireless Apple CarPlay, it's got Android Auto. I mean, the climate controls are all touch sensitive, which is a little bit on the annoying side. But I do quite like the volume control, that's like one big twiddly. I quite like that. I like the sort of red stitching that gathers around it, and I like the materials all around the front. If you step up in the range, then you get a panoramic sunroof, B&O sound system, an electrified boot lid. We don't have the electrified version of this one. And speaking of the boot, not as big as I thought it was going to be. It's 402 litres, which is fine. And actually, it does make things a little bit better knowing that you've got the 81 litre, it's called a frunk or a fruit, isn't it? I can't help but call it a bonnet hole. That's what I like to call it. The bonnet hole. It's got an 81 litre bonnet hole. Frunk or fruit. You know what I mean. But that's where the charging cables are anyway. There's a decent amount of space in the back as well, with more than enough headroom and legroom for 5 adults. If only we had a few extra passengers to empty the battery even more quickly. Right, in terms of mileage, how are we getting on here? We're on 43%. We've got 97 miles left in the tank. Oh, I keep calling it a tank. It's not a tank. Like when I called it an engine earlier, it's not an engine. It's not a tank, it's a battery. We've got 97 miles in the battery. There we go. What's quite cool about this car is the setup here. It tells you where your energy has gone. So the battery being drained, 77% of the battery draining is because of how I'm driving. 9% external temperature. So if it was colder out, that would be a high percentage. But in terms of everything else, accessories and climate use and all that sort of stuff, that's about 14%. That's not as high as I thought it would be. It's mostly just how I'm driving it. So if you've got everything on and you still drive it carefully, you can still make the most out of the battery, I reckon. Okay, we are officially pulling off the motorway and pulling into the service station. I have 55 miles left, which is 27%. I have done 106 miles when actually the car is telling me I've done, what, 188? So it's been about 80 miles difference, I would say. It's knocked off 80 miles. I think it's also worth pointing out, I have thoroughly enjoyed driving this car. It's quite lovely. It's been a really, really lovely drive. I've had a great day. I would call that a success, really. The fact that we've had everything on has been pretty blooming good, hasn't it? Just knocking off 80 miles, really. I expected it to be worse, I'm not going to lie. So we're going to pull in and charge up now. It will charge at 115 kilowatts, so it will go 0 to 80 in about 35 minutes, 38 minutes. It's not too bad, is it?